You know, you're in denial because that's your mother. You don't understand things. She didn't want to tell you things, you know. So, I understand. Give me a hug. Are you okay? She said, yeah, I'm okay. Like, your little tiny voice, and you have a spirit of a giant monster. Talk about trust issues. What's up, Team Jazzy? It's your girl, Jazzy J, and I am back with another mukbang. So for today's true crime, we are going to be talking about the worst roommate ever. It is the landlord lady at the boarding house. Shout out to Team Jazzy. I was asked to do this specific true crime, and when I say I have been so into this, like it's so long, and I've been trying to figure out how to bring it down some, but it's just so much information. I was writing notes. It was just too much. It got so bad I bought the paper up and was like, forget this. I'm gonna go to Chipotle and make some nachos, and I'm just gonna talk off the top of my dome. It's literally been like a week and a half of me watching videos, reading Wikipedia. Like, this video, a big thumbs up for the simple fact that I have Chipotle nachos, and I'm not even supposed to have cheese. And, you know, I've just been challenging myself not to do meat or dairy. And I'm doing pretty good. I do more vegan meals than I do cheese and meat meals. And if I do have meat, it's always chicken. So I think I'm doing pretty good. Pat myself on the back. Chipotle nachos. I have chicken, tomato, onion, corn, and that's it. I didn't want to do the rice since I'm already doing the chips. And I got queso dip. This is good. But yeah, y'all, I be overthinking sometimes. And that's why these true crimes take me longer than expected. I think these are called like animal style nachos or something. I was a married couple with 5 children. And the father died. And she was left to raise 5 kids by herself. But she did a very good job with them. And so, all of her children are grown. And she meets a man at work. He's really digging her, right? He asked to take her out. And they hit it off. They fell in love with each other. And she ended up marrying him. Her name is Ruth. Ruth married this guy, Harold. What's his name? And them bringing their
two lives together as one, he introduced his wife to a friend. Her name was Dorothea. And Dorothea and Ruth hit it off pretty well. They became very close, like closer than Dorothea and Harold. And that's a good feeling, when your wife and a good friend of yours become really close. So everything seemed good until Harold got diagnosed with cancer. And a couple years after they were married, Harold died. Well, Dorothy continued to be Ruth's friend. So, Ruth was just like, I gotta distract myself. Because that's depressing, Both of your husbands have died. That's depressing. And so Dorothy was like, let's open a business together. We're gonna open up this business. You're gonna stay distracted. But Dorothy didn't have a lot of money to put up for the business. So Ruth was like, she was vulnerable, and she was like, I want to distract myself so much. Let's do this business. I don't care if you don't have the money. I'll do it. That's what friends are for. So they start this business. Everything is going good. But now Ruth runs into another problem. She don't like to feel lonely at home. She doesn't like living by herself. And so Dorothy, okay, let me remind you or tell you, these are old ladies we're talking about. Like, they're in their 70s, maybe 60s, close to 70s. We're gonna say that. So she's like, I am distracted running this business, but I don't like living by myself. And so Dorothy is like, okay, I have another solution to your problem. Let's just live together. I'm living by myself. You're living by yourself. Why not? Ruth is like, okay. So they move in together. And Ruth's children was visiting their mother all the time. And about a week into living with Dorothy, Ruth started to become sick. And when her children would go to visit her, they would notice she was out of it. She was always staring into space, and she always had a cup in her hand. And one of the sons was like, what are you drinking? You don't drink alcohol, so why do you always have a cup in your hand? And so Ruth was like, oh, I've been under the weather, but Dorothy has been taking care of me. So she's like, this is just tea to help me get better. So they're like, oh, okay. Well, one day, a couple days later, Dorothy calls all of Ruth's kids and was like, y'all need to get here now. When they get there, she's like, Ruth is out of it at this time. And you know, it's to be expected because they say, like, when your husband or wife dies, it's not long till the other one dies as well. So, the kids are worried because they're like, she was perfectly healthy. Why is she all of a sudden getting so sick? And so they kissed their mother goodbye, and they was like, don't worry, Dorothy is here. She's going to take very good care of you. You know, it's such a coincidence that you guys even live together. Like, who knew my mom was going to get sick as soon as she gets a roommate? And so the very next day, Ruth dies. They didn't know that was going to be the last time they ever talked to their mom. And Dorothy called them and said, you know, y'all need to get here. By the time all the kids got there, they was already rolling her body out. She had passed away. And so, of course, the kids, they're asking Dorothy, what happened? What happened? And Dorothy was like, unfortunately, she killed herself. They're like, what? Our mom would never. Yeah, she was lonely, so she moved in with you, but she has grandkids. She loved life. She would never, ever kill herself. And Dorothy was just like, you know, you're in denial because that's your mother. You don't understand things. She didn't want to tell you things, you know. So, I understand. Give me a hug. So, one of Ruth's son-in-laws was like, I'm going to figure this out because that's weird. We want answers that make sense. And so, this man, he had found out that her autopsy had showed a drug. And so they pulled up prescriptions and stuff. She was never prescribed this drug. But what can you prove with that, you know? She was taking drugs. She wasn't supposed to be. So that kind of shows suicide. So moving on. A couple years later, Dorothy goes to jail because she had a business. Because the business that she had was she was a landlord for people that, like, here we go again, people that don't nobody care about. Remember the video, the most recent serial killer? Reminds me of that. But she was going to jail because she was taking advantage of people that she thought weren't important. She took in homeless people. She took in alcoholics and schizophrenic and people with mental issues that was getting Social Security checks. She was a landlord. They were renting out her house, different rooms. And every time a check came in the mail for them, instead of giving it to them, giving their money to them, she would forge their signature and then go and cash it. Well, she got caught doing that, and she had to do 3 years in jail. And I actually think she was younger than what she looked. But she dyed her hair gray. She dyed her hair gray and put on thick glasses and wore a long gown, things like that, to make her seem older. She just moved real slow, like she was real fragile. And while she was in jail, this older guy, used to write her in jail. His wife had died. He was lonely. He had mental problems. And so his way of, filling that void of emptiness, he would write women in jail. Well, Dorothy took a liking to this, and she started to write back, and they fell in love with her being in jail. So when she got out, he's the one that picked her up from jail. And she went right back to the boarding house. And she said she was just living there because she was on parole. So she went back to the house, but she was not allowed to, run the business. She wasn't allowed to be over nobody. Three years is a long time. I would feel like my life is passing me by. And I would do everything to a T getting out of prison. Whatever they said. So 3 years go by. 3 more years go by. And all of a sudden, a social worker, a woman files a missing persons report. And they're looking for a man, and his last address was the boarding house. So they go to the boarding house, and she answers the door. And she says, "I'm in trouble." And the police is like, "What?" She's like, "I'm in trouble." They said, "Why?" She was like, "Because I'm in violation of my parole. I've been running this boarding house myself." And they was like, "Oh, well, we're here because the man went missing and his last address was here, and we just need to scope the scene. He has mental issues and his family is worried about him." So she's like, "Oh, okay, go ahead." So they go in, they're looking around, and they realize there's mounds of dirt all in this lady's yard. Not just a little mounds of dirt like you're planting, but it's how big a flower bed is, in front of a person's house. It was a lot of those areas just randomly everywhere in her yard. So they get shovels and they start digging. And she's really calm. She's offering them coffee and talking to them and everything. And so as they're digging, she comes outside to check on them. And the police ends up, he sees something. So he's pulling it. He can't pull it. So he's yanking it. He's using his whole body. And then it's whatever he was pulling yanked off of something else. And he was holding a bone. Hey.
Oh, shoot. I did not mean to call you. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Yes. I just found my next true crime. Okay. So, where is that at? He pulls something off of it. And he's and he looks, he's holding a bone. He's holding a freaking human bone. And Dorothy was like, "Is that what I think it is?" And they was like, "Yeah." And so the police officer was like, "I bet you if I keep digging throughout this whole yard, I'm going to find more bodies." And she was like, "Well, I didn't put them there." She's like, "I haven't been here the whole time. I was in jail. I was living in different places." And they're like, Right, but who we gotta figure this out. Like, they're thinking the missing man, that's his body, right? And so Dorothea's like, you know, all of this is making me so nervous. Can I go down the street to that hotel? My nephew works there. We just gonna sit down and have some coffee. I just need to woosah. This is a lot. And so the police officer was just like, yeah, sure, but everybody, like crowds of people, was coming to record. News reporters, journalists, everybody's outside of her house right now trying to figure out why the police is there. Because once they found that body, all the police came, like all the investigators is there, because now it's something bigger than just a missing person. And so the police officer was like, yeah, you want to go down the street? Let me walk you, or at least see you there. See you go there, because there's so much going on. Like, it's a lot. And, you know, she's just this old, fragile little lady.
Hey, girl. Sorry about that.
She's like this little, old, fragile lady. And so he walks her through the crowds of people. They go down the porch. They're going through all these crowds of people. And so she starts walking down to the hotel. He stands there and watch her. He sees her go inside the hotel. He runs back and start digging. They're trying to find, they're like, oh my God, if it's one body, it gotta be more than one. We gonna see though, you know? And so they're digging, and they can't believe it. Body number 2. And that's when they screamed out, we got another body. And that's when the police officer was like, it was like a light bulb went off in his head. And he's like, she went to go get coffee, you know? And he ran down there he ran to the hotel, asked them, and they was like, we didn't see no lady. We didn't see no old lady. He's like, let me check the cameras. They checked the cameras. She had walked in, used the payphone to call a cab, and bounced on them. So this old lady drove to a different state she went to an old friend's house. And the friend opened the door like, hey, like she was startled, like, hey. She's like, girl, she makes up this bogus story. She was very quick on her feet. She knew how to fast talk people, and she was frail and just like had a soft voice. And so you're instantly like, oh, you know, you instantly want to help the elderly. They're just so little and fragile and full of wisdom. And, you know, it's just like, how dare you let them live on the street? So that's my friend, and she's sitting here at my doorstep saying something happened. She needs to stay with me for a couple days. I'm just like, oh my God, come on in. So she said, she was like, I'm so stressed out. I just need a drink, is what Dorothy said to her friend. And so her friend was like, let me make it for you. She was like, no, I make it really good. She was like, I want to make this drink for the both of us, and let me know if you like it. She was like, okay. And they sat down and started drinking. And the friend said she was so out of it. She was like, all she did, she just felt like she just blinked. She said, and she woke up and she didn't see Dorothy no more. She was just so confused. Like, that's how out of it. You know how you have one of them deep sleeps, you wasn't even supposed to be asleep. Like, I did that a couple times, like reading something, like reading a true crime, working, and I decide to sit in the bed and do it, and I fall asleep. I wake up confused. Like, this lady woke up so confused. Like, what is going on? Like, was that a dream? But then she noticed a lot of her stuff was gone. Her suitcase was gone. Jewelry was gone. Money was gone. Dorothea had drugged her to make her pass out and then stole a whole bunch of stuff in her house. Then she went to a bar. Like, you're literally wanted right now. Get somewhere and sit down. But she like, nah, I got to keep doing this so I can build up my wealth and just disappear. You know? So she's probably just thinking like, ooh, one more time. And so she goes to the bar. And she sees a guy. And, you know, cute, like I said, cute old lady. Monsters don't look like monsters. And she's like,
talking to him, and she's like, yeah, I'm staying at this hotel. I just moved here. I'm looking for a roommate. They start telling each other about their life. They start telling each other their life stories, and conversation gets deep, and he talking about he looking for a place to live, or he lonely. She like, me too. I just moved here. I am looking for a roommate type of thing. And so she was like, well, I'm staying at this hotel, for a couple weeks, and then after that I'll be looking for my own spot. So here's my number if you want to, roommate, if you want to be my roommate. And so he's like, okay, sure. And he gets home from the bar, he takes his shoes off, he's sitting there drunk. Normally get home from the bar and you've been drinking, you fall asleep, like you're just out of it. You ain't going home to watch TV. This man cut the TV on and saw Dorothea on the news saying that she was wanted right now. The police is looking for her right now. He called the police and was like, hey, she's at this hotel. And they came and swooped her up. They came and swooped her up. The same police officer that she ran from, that she finessed, was like, as soon as he saw her, he said, are you okay? She said, yeah, I'm okay. Like, your little tiny voice, and you have a spirit of a giant monster, but you just look like, hello, yeah, I'm okay, I'm fine. Talk about trust issues. And so they asked her, like, they told her, they said, we have found a total of 7 bodies in your yard. It was probably 8, y'all. Listen to the story, okay? It's the story for me. It's not the numbers, but it was a lot of bodies in her yard. And they told her, you had a lot of bodies in the back of your yard. Did you know, or would you like to talk about it? And she was like, no, I don't want to talk about it. And she would not speak on it. She said she pled not guilty. She was like, I didn't do it. But the evidence was so hard to gather because these bodies were missing hands, teeth, so they couldn't identify who they were. And they were also people that nobody really cared about. And if they did care about them, it was like they're always running away. They'll be back soon. So all these dead bodies of, mental patients and alcoholic and drug addicts. It's so sad. So back to Ruth's family. Ruth's family was like, okay, this is making sense. All these people that she drugged, every person's body that they found that same chemical in their body that Ruth had in her body. So it's like, it makes sense. Every person that you roommate with, you drug them with this to steal all their stuff, or to, basically zombie them out. You want them so zombie so you can take control and steal their belongings, steal their money. Why are you such an evil person? Now let's go to her childhood. Let's figure out, why was she such an evil person? Dorothea, it makes so much sense. This lady had such a horrible childhood trauma experience. I mean, can counseling even help? That's how bad it was. She had a mother and a father. Neither one of them cared about her. The father was an alcoholic, and if he wasn't knocked out drunk, then he was beating on everybody. He was physically abusive. The mother was a prostitute and would lock her in a closet while she go and do her thing. Like, look it up for yourself, because that's why I said I couldn't stop this true crime is so long. Like, the whole case within itself, I was too emotionally invested, time invested, and I was just like, this is taking too long. If I don't stop now, I'm never even going to be able to tell it. Like, that's how much information it is out there. Look into her childhood and you're going to see why, like, this little girl grew up to be a monster because of her childhood experiences. I guarantee you. And it's so sad because her heart was just so cold and black. She had no sympathy for nobody. She just wanted to take. That's all she wanted to do was take from everybody who would let her. And it's so scary because, you know, even though it was a long time ago, there's people still out here like that today. You have to be careful. You cannot be a naive person because they can smell it. They can smell when you are just so like airheaded. Like, oh, you like me? Oh, you want to be my friend? Okay, take my money. No, like, and this woman, she was smart and she used her smart for evil, and she was signing off these checks and disguised as a old fragile woman, but really you out killing people. There was a guy. He told the story. He got drugged by her, but he didn't even zombie out and fall asleep. He was like stuck, like he couldn't move or talk, but he could just understand what was going on with his words. As he drunk whatever Dorothea made for him, he was so out of it, but he watched her start moving around. She turned into somebody totally different. When she realized he couldn't move, she turned into somebody different and started running around his house, putting stuff in his suitcase, just taking all of these things that may be of value and just started stuffing them everywhere. Then she walks over to him, takes a ring off of him, puts it in her pocket, grabs the stuff, and bounced on him. Like she was a serial thief. And then she must have started making this stuff even stronger to kill people off. But her first victim was Ruth. And it's sad because Ruth's death didn't even be able to be claimed by Dorothea because one of the juries disagreed with the other juries. So even though she got life in prison, it still doesn't say that they said that, you know, she was only going to prison because of the rest of these murders, but not Ruth's murder. And the family just like, huh? And so the lawyers was going to go back to trial because they like, no, we want Ruth's name on that. She didn't die for no reason. But then the lawyer was like talking to Ruth's family like, well, listen, she already going to jail for life. So do we really want to do this unnecessary stress? Like, this is exhausting. And so they're like, right, yeah, you're right. At least she's going to jail for life. And she died in prison. So many people tried to interview her and she just would not crack. She was like, nope, I didn't do it. But then she turned around and had a cooking video called Cooking with a Serial Killer. It was either a video or she wrote a book or something like that. It's the audacity for me, okay? I don't know which one it was, but it's the audacity. You have the audacity to boast in this shit. And I just... How do y'all feel about it? Let me know in the comment section down below. Post notification goes to... Thank you so much for having your post notifications on. Shout out to you for being the first to comment on the last video. If you would like a shout out, all you have to do is be the first to comment on the next video. If you would like to see more true crime videos, then click right here. If you would like to subscribe to this channel so that you never miss another video, then click right here. I love you and I will see you guys in the next mukbang.